listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Aditya.
This is episode 164 on the 3rd of February 2020. The 1st of Feb 2019 started with 28 episodes, and now the 3rd of Feb 2020 starts with 164 episodes. Now, isn't that an awesome display of skill and creativity at its best? Nothing monotonous about it. In the contemporary times where the debate about skill development continues, though this definition of what is skill development and what do the citizens of a country need in terms of jobs and employment is often skewed. What does one mean when they say that the youth of a country are in need of jobs and employment? Till date, no one knows what is the definition of a job. Is it about working for other individuals, being in servitude to other individuals, being proud of the fact that individuals are CEOs, MDs, and other such exalted positions, but for other companies, not of their own? How is that in any world a moment of pride? I read this article that often self-employment is seen as disguised employment because the definition of earning and jobs is so limited that one is often confused at how can self-employment and entrepreneurship and doing something for oneself is seen as disguised employment. It's time to change the definition of employment. Employment cannot be restricted to working for someone else. That cannot be a show of pride. While one may be satisfied at earning a good amount, one is not satisfied in other factors. One has no control over factors like number of hours an individual can work as per their need. Working for others means one has to follow the rules of that corporation, and often this is where things go awry and the creativity is almost finished. While the traditional definition of jobs and employment continues to rule the roost, it's time to move on to individuals who have their own business. But even that shouldn't be limited to a few sectors like science, education, or health sector. One has to include all kinds of self-promoting businesses. This narrow definition of a startup also needs to be looked at, and we need to broaden the definition of who is or what is an entrepreneur. In fact, the term startup itself is so insulting to an individual because the moment we use the word startup for our own organization, the feeling is that our company is mature. It hasn't become a multinational corporation like the ones we always profess to, the ones we revere to like devotees, and the entire effort of things which are beyond a startup but are equal to being an entrepreneurial effort goes into the water. It has been the mindset for centuries. The definition of a successful company is seen through the profit it makes. More than often, this definition is often discriminating. Profits cannot be directly proportional to the success or failure of a company, or the number of employees the company has, or the salary paid by that company cannot define its success or failure. And the adage, the more things change, the more they remain the same, is true for this situation. The narrow definition of degrees and the impact the degrees have in gainful employment also is skewed. Skills, career are terms often used by individuals to show that we are progressing into the future, but this is just taking two steps back. 136 episodes from February 2019 till February 2020 is no mean job. I learned all the skills that one learns through 3 years of wasting time in an MBA degree. I learned management skills, I learned editing skills. I invited guests to the show and made sure that they are comfortable when they give their viewpoints and they are not affected by the topics chosen by me. I even managed two guests in one day and four guests in a space of 3 months. It is no mean job when one has to do all the tasks on their own. Deciding the topics for the particular day, making sure that my listeners who are enthusiastic about listening to my talk show never miss out on a single podcast, especially in an environment where terms like work life balance are often used in the most cavalier manner. There is no bigger project than producing 3 episodes a week, doing everything on one's own, from deciding the topics, making sure that the episodes are at the appropriate length, being patient about receiving the feedbacks at the appropriate time. Through this 164 episodes, I have not only learned all the facets one would learn in an MBA, but I have also increased and nuanced my communication skills. I didn't have to worry about petty issues like internship, which in my experience are a complete waste of time if not given the right amount of respect. There is no bigger practical knowledge an individual can have than doing that project on their own, not worrying about petty and trivial issues like whether the project will be successful, whether the marks given will help me in the future. Over the past 20 months, I have also done extensive research on what the audience wants from my podcast, and on receiving the appropriate feedback, I have inculcated that in this particular talk show. Question would be, there are so many podcasts and talk shows out there in the field. What makes this one special? The answer is simple. How many podcasts do you see producing their talk shows twice a week on different topics? In my research, there are not many podcasts doing this at the moment, and that is what makes my podcast and talk show unique. 3 episodes a week, 12 to 13 episodes a month, not limiting to one topic, not letting the rigors of competition in this particular field affect the quality of the podcast or the talk show that needs to be enhanced and go above and beyond other such genres. But unlike other products which are concrete, this particular product is abstract, it's communication. So the business decisions such as marketing, product market fit, consumer reaction, execution, and operations are unique and different to most products where the product is concrete and sellable. And most often the only target is profits. But the marketing goal and making sure that the listeners get accustomed to the style of talk show is a long term plan and not a short term one. As one builds a customer or a listener base, other factors such as catering to the market for the business to stand out and become a brand is about being efficient and the quality of the talk show, moving beyond anomalies like brands. Because in the field of talk shows and podcasts and such communication networks, there is no competition, nor can one think about or stress out about abstract ideas like resistance, struggles, and success or failure. These terms simply cannot exist in the dictionary of a talk show host or a podcaster. As long as the podcaster or the talk show host enjoy what they are doing, such anomalies, that is, the resistance, the struggles, the branding, and other anomalies, will fall into place, and one has to be patient about it, but at the same time do not fret about these very anomalies. The most important thing is to concentrate on making a quality show which is useful to the listeners and also brings out a lot of learning in the host itself. And if these are the goals, then other anomalies will not bother the host or the entrepreneur of the talk show. For example, a decision has been made to produce 3 shows a week or 2 a week, depending on the need of the show and the target audience, then stick to it. Do not for any reason deter from this decision, and do not be affected by trivial factors such as low audience engagement, because that is one thing which will duly happen in time and one cannot be affected by it. If the host feels that the talk show created, produced is of quality and will help people in the future, then stick to it, go on with it, and don't bother about other trivial and petty issues. And if the aim is to build networks, then do it in the old school fashion. Do not be influenced by the audience engagement on the digital apps only, because that is often ambiguous and can be misleading. India New Zealand Championship T20 series ended on a high note, but one must not get carried away by it. Such tournaments are important with respect to the World Championship 8 months from now. The first 2 matches were about the Indian team dominating with their batting and bowling. The last 3 matches was about New Zealand imploding. It was a hat-trick of situations when the New Zealand team, being in a good position, lost, and Indian team snatched the match from the jaws of defeat. Such matches would have been only possible in countries like New Zealand, Australia, England, and South Africa. If India had made between 160 and 180 in their own home grounds, they would have never defended it. But one of the reasons they made this possible outside the country was because of debate around due never came up. And for the first time, India won a tournament or a pre-World Cup series without the contribution of Virat Kohli. And for me, KL Rahul has cemented his position at least for the next 8 months. Though I am disappointed by the exclusion of Rishabh Pant. These 5 matches, for whatever reasons, Pant is the only player who did not get a chance, and his wicket-keeping counterpart Sanju Samson got 2 chances and he frittered away both. India might have saved their backsides by defending 160, but the total would have been 15-20 runs more if they had somebody of the caliber of Pant batting in the last 5 to 6 overs, and that is what the team management will have to balance out. The two all rounders in Washington Sundar and Ravindra Jadeja did the job they were required to do, though the respect for them is lowering down because of the constant debate around finger spinners or leg spinners. One debate I do not appreciate. But let me tell you why we should not be so happy about India winning this series 5-0, though we ticked all the boxes in terms of batting, bowling, and fielding. In 2016, leading up to the 2016 World Championship in India, India had done the same thing. They had beaten all the teams that were involved before the practice matches. They won against Sri Lanka, they beat Australia 3-0. They won the T20 Asia Cup. But when it came to the semi-finals of the 2016 World Cup, the eerie feeling was that somehow this tournament belonged to the West Indies. And why did the West Indies team win? Because we lacked that sixth bowler. Fact that a total of 190 wasn't enough to be defended did not show the lack of quality bowlers in the team, but just a series of luck for the West Indies team. Despite Shivam Dube going for 34 runs in 1 over, New Zealand did not take advantage of that, and the bowling team, which in this case was the Indian team, which was riding high on the super over victories in the previous two matches, knew that even a runner ball is going to be difficult for the New Zealand team if they take wickets. This is where the maturity of the New Zealand team was not seen. And though one will say that this is a New Zealand team without the three of the bowlers who tormented the Indian team during the World Cup semi-final in Trent Boult, Lockie Ferguson and Matt Henry, that is not the Indian team's fault. They won the series, which is a good effort, but they cannot get complacent. Australian grounds are going to be bigger, and when luck is on one team's side, it just keeps on accelerating and increasing. While the men's team got away by winning the match, the women's team didn't have that kind of luck. Like the men's team who play the 50 overs, the test matches, and the 20 over matches throughout the year, the women's team mainly concentrate on playing the 20 over matches. While they won in a lucky manner against the England team, chasing a total of 150 against the Australian team, the Indian women's team had no answer for the plan shredded out by the Australian team with short bowling, exposing the middle order of the Indian team who couldn't cope up with the smart bowling by the Australian women's team, and therefore the Indian team could only make a total of 100 runs. The Australian team did win. They won by only 4 wickets and in the last over. So the question would have been, if the Indian team had been smarter and had scored between 125 and 140, then they would have certainly won the match, and they will have to reassess their strategies in the next match, because these are the teams they will be facing in the World Cup in the practice matches, and they will be playing in these same grounds. Affably, in cricket, the ground on which you play, the conditions on which you play do matter. Ironically, while the men's T20 Australian team hasn't won a T20 World Cup, the women's team has won it 5 times. So it shows the priority of the cricket boards, the international cricket boards, that women are only made for 20 over matches, and if needed, they can play a bit of 50 over matches, but they are not fit for test matches. At least in the Indian women's team's situation, the Indian Cricket Board has made it clear that the Indian women's team is not made for test matches. They can only play 20 overs and 50 overs, and this shows women's team do not have the stamina to do this for 5 days. Women's team remarkably also agree to this, which is often perplexing. Move on to a championship that has really come into focus, the Junior World Cup. All because the Indian men's Junior World Cup team is now in the semi-finals, and one of the reasons it's getting all the attention is because they will face Pakistan in the Junior World Cup match. Well, this is often a rarity that the Indian men's World Cup team, any Indian men's team, any team, in fact, any sporting team that is a full team effort, that is the hockey team, the football team, the men's team, the women's team, the junior team, they do not often face Pakistan outside world championships, and therefore this match becomes even more important. Though a Priyam Garg may not get that kind of fan following like a Virat Kohli does, but then 12 years ago, Virat Kohli was another rookie who had come into the team. Everybody remembers Yuvraj Singh. Everybody remembers Virat Kohli, and to some extent Unmukt Chand. The Indian junior team are just 2 steps away from winning the gold. Therefore, the match tomorrow may be watched with attention it may have not received had the opponent for India been any other team but Pakistan. Therefore, even the broadcasters decided that instead of giving them a poor quality SD channel, that is a standard definition channel on which the match will be broadcasted on, they will be given a proper HD channel where the match will be broadcasted and it will be talked about in the entire country. Despite the results of that match, the individuals in the two teams will get the accolades from their respective countries, and it won't be a surprise if they are inducted into the senior teams almost immediately. In any case, a team like Pakistan loves inducting 16, 17-year-olds into their team, and it won't be a surprise if they extract a few players from this team and make sure that they are groomed for the World Cups in future. In the Indian scenario, it's a different story. Kohli was the last under 19 player, under 19 captain who has been given a long run of nearly 12 and a half years. Despite Kohli's slow start in the initial 3 to 4 years of his career, he was given the chances and he has now evolved into a good batter and eventually the captain of the team and being called the best in the world, who is ready to break all records by a former player in Tendulkar. Since that, the team has been hesitant to give a long rope to under 19 players. Even Rishabh Pant is not seen as the future or is not seen as the keeper to go to once they went to Rahul. The selectors and the team management are skeptical on including the likes of Prithvi Shaw and Shubman Gill as the players for the future. Prithvi Shaw was included in the team only because Dhawan was injured, and if Rohit does not recover from his injury, from his hamstring pull he sustained yesterday or in the fifth match, one might see Shaw opening with Rahul. If the team management wants to play Rohit could even play on a stretcher if needed. They will do everything in their power to make sure that Rohit Sharma is ready for the match, even if it means playing on a stretcher or using crutches to play. This is where the question comes. Why have we eliminated the rule of runners? Why are runners no longer allowed? The concept of runners should come back. The runner debate is a different debate for now. It won't be a surprise if the entire country, at least the 30 to 40% who watch this sport, watch the India-Pakistan match. It may be a India-Pakistan Junior World Cup semi-final, but the terms India and Pakistan, once they come into play, it doesn't make a difference whether it's the senior team, the women's team, the national team, the hockey team, or any other team, because the terms often bring out pseudoist of nationalism in the people. And in no way will this be affected. Mission 2021 has often heard about is not just about the Indian team winning the T20 World Championship or the junior teams winning the World Cup, but it's also about the hockey team winning that elusive Olympic gold. And the road to that is through the Hockey World Pro League Championship. After a 2-week hiatus, this tournament is back, and this time India will face another strong European team in Belgium. And can the Indian team carry on the momentum through which they pulverize the Netherlands team? It is surely a chance. The Indian team has the momentum, the confidence, the world-class players. Going by the previous Netherlands match, never once did the Indian team feel the pressure, even though they were trailing 1-3 in the second match. They came back to equalize it and win the penalty shootouts. If the Indian team continues not to be affected by the opponent and also not affected by the fact that if they are down and out but still have time remaining, in hockey even 5 minutes is enough for the team to make a comeback and equalize the score. And if the Indian team can start on a positive note and they can secure the goals in the first half, then the other team will be under pressure, because even after the India Netherlands match, the respect for the Indian team may not rise to that level. The Belgian team might take the Indian team likely because they will see the India Netherlands matches as a fluke, and this is where the Indian team can take advantage of this attitude by the other teams, that because of their past experiences, the Indian team has often faltered. But if the Indian hockey team keeps up this momentum, then the chances of winning not only the Pro Hockey League Championship but doing well enough in the Olympics and the World Cup to follow in 2023 will be a point of history. The hockey match will never be marketed in the way the India-New Zealand series has been marketed, the way Virat Kohli has been held at a pedestal. Still, hockey wins and hockey performances are very important for the Indian team. Perhaps flying below the radar is what the hockey team wants. The less they are in discussion, the much better they perform, and the more they are criticized by the obnoxious and the snobbish media, the more they can answer back by winning such memorable matches. A distasteful attitude towards hockey also has to change. The more one talks about the past performances, that is the Olympics 2016, the World Cup 2018, the Commonwealth Games 2018, and we, due to unfortunate circumstances, could not go beyond the knockout round, not mean that the same team cannot go and perform well in the hockey matches. But as I said, maybe the blessing in disguise for the hockey team is the less they are in the news, the less they are talked about, the more they can come up with memorable performances, and when they do, then they will deserve a first page mention in every newspaper and online forum. If a Harmanpreet or a Manpreet Singh does not get the kind of publicity that is often given to the likes of PV Sindhu, Saina Nehwal, Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Kohli, and the other football players who are not Indian football players, a careless attitude towards the hockey team will be a win-win for the hockey team. One doesn't often need to show aggression to get that kind of publicity. Unlike cricket, where there is so much time for important discussions, the pace of hockey and the pace of football does not allow the announcer, the commentator to be distracted and converse about the players in detail or about their private life and what they do to become role models. 8th and 9th of November will be a very important match as the hockey team continues its march towards the World Cup and before that the all elusive Olympic gold. This ends episode number 164 on the 3rd of February 2020. Stay tuned for the next episode.
And you're listening to my favorite talk show, The Weekly Show with Untitled.